hit out to deep right field. It is up and out, a grand slam for Fernando Tatis Jr.
Fernando Tatis Jr., a grand slam. Myers drives one out towards deep left center field. Back goes Heineman at the wall. It's gone! Another grand slam for the Padres.
Le tiró, palo profundo, puede ser el final, va por el 11avo, se va, se fue!
Oz hits one well into deep right field. Rushed, grand slam home run, San Diego Padres. Where'd you heard that before?
Welcome to Slam Diego, you guys. I'm happy to host you. I'm Julie Alexandria here in Slam Diego with Jennifer Mercedes in New Jersey and Ozzie Guillén Jr. in Chicago. We got you covered. Happy Monday, and here we are. We're halfway through, you guys. But that was just a taste of the excitement. It is palpable. People are out and about, of course, wearing masks here in San Diego, but also sporting some San Diego jerseys because it has never been hotter to be a Padres fan as they rolled through Texas teams this past weekend, winning 7 in a row, 4 in a home-and-home series against the Texas Rangers, and then, of course, the past 3 against the Houston Astros. They have owned Texas. And the Padre train just keeps on rolling, making history. 5th Grand Slam in 6 games. Absolutely incredible. You guys having fun watching the Padres or what?
Having so much fun and having so much more fun, like interacting on social media and seeing everybody's delight and surprise and hoping for another one. And really, we all know this would not have happened had Tatis Jr. not swung on that 3-0 pitch. We would not be having this conversation. And it's almost like they woke a sleeping dragon. And now we have a saying in Spanish that says, no creen en nadie, or like they don't believe that anything can stop them. That's kind of the attitude that they seem to be playing with right now. And they're having fun, which is a lot of fun to watch.
Could anyone have anticipated that pivotal moment?
You know what? Most people don't follow the Padres. Obviously, the biggest team in the West Coast is the Dodgers. It's just hard, West Coast baseball. They haven't been relevant since like '99. Andy Ashby, Hoffman, Tony Gwynn. It's a team that's been rebuilding for a long time. They've always had the talent with exciting players, but they've been playing good baseball for a while now, since the beginning of the year. But they had their closer go down. Yeah. Okay. Kirby Yates, who's out. One of the top closers in Major League Baseball. Yep. And I thought they were done. I said, with Kirby going down, no one really had caught up, and they were kind of like in this middle limbo. And then the Tatis incident happened. I really believe that there's moments in teams where you take off or you fall. And it could happen through like a bench clearing brawl, a firing of a manager, a changing of a player. Something happens that can affect the teams. A trade, something. And this one happened. And for the manager of the Texas Rangers, I think he's going to regret this for a long, long time because he still has to play them for a couple more games. This team is hot, okay? Tatis started it, but when you look at their lineup, there's a lot of really good young players when you look at the top prospects. Obviously, Machado's one of the guys with more kind of repertoire in Major League Baseball and Eric Hosmer, but it's an exciting team. They're very, very good. I feel like their team is actually doing a really good job to promote them in the level of a national audience, but they're really good. Like they're playing and they're not scared. I think because of Tatis's hair, I think a lot of people thought that he had swagger, but he was a very calm player, meaning the previous years, like he was exciting, but he wasn't very bold in your face. Like he was very, very timid. I think now from this 3-0, he said, I'm done. I'm just going to be me. And I've seen him showing more emotions, which is a good thing. The high-fiving, the be quiet, the crybaby. I like it. He didn't start it, but he's finishing it. So I think it's great for baseball. Today, if I could pick 2 World Series teams that I would like to see just on excitement itself, I would love to see the White Sox, San Diego, because I think they have really exciting teams. But this is good. This is amazing for baseball. I think if it wasn't for teams like that, the 60-game season would be very irrelevant to a lot of fans. And it's not irrelevant. I love it because now I get to see West Coast baseball. Seeing the Dodgers for the past years and, the other teams I'm not haven't been that exciting. So to see them to get back up and running and being on the top, it's fun.
How difficult, though, will it be for the Padres to overcome the Dodgers?
Very difficult because I think the Dodgers are built to be the champions. Okay, they're at a different level, but I think the disadvantage that the Dodgers have that the Padres don't have to worry about is all the pressure's on the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. Okay, when you go play with no pressure of no expectations, mm-hmm. I think you're a very dangerous team. We saw it with the Nationals, Cinderella story. 2005 White Sox, 2003 Marlins, teams that usually don't have to be there are very dangerous to really beat because they're just like, well, if we lose, it was a success because, we made it to the World Series or we made it to the playoffs. But if we win, we just shocked everybody. And I really feel like San Diego, right now, the next week is going to be very interesting because I really think that a pitching arm might help them in the starting rotation for them to make a move for somebody who they can get to help them be in that push. So again, I don't want them to give up any other top prospects, but I can see there's a player that a lot of people, Will Myers again. I can see them moving him. I'm just saying, that there's players that they have that there's so much talent that might not fit there. Move them, bring an arm in. So the general manager is definitely going to be busy, but it's going to be tough, but I would not want to be the Dodgers facing them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely see them making some moves before that trade deadline. It definitely looms large for this team. You have to consider that Tommy Pham went down as he came over from Tampa Bay at the beginning of the year. So, they're down a bat, but the pitching is really the big question with them, I think. Kirby Yates, there's no return in sight for him. They're going to roll through the Seattle Mariners, who they have an off day today. They're going to pick up with Seattle, who comes to town on Tuesday. I have a feeling, given the standings, just my prediction, they're probably going to roll through those guys. But, the Dodgers have had their number for a long time. They've been their nemesis. And then you look at the integral parts and, those roots run deep with Dave Roberts. There's a bit of a chip on the shoulder there. So there's a lot to be said for these Padres. I will quote Mark Grant, former pitcher and current analyst for Fox Sports San Diego, who said at the beginning of the season, he said, as goes Fernando Tatis Jr., so go the Padres. Yeah. And that statement could not be any truer because we have seen when Tatis is hot, these guys, the hitting is contagious. Everyone is putting in. They have a new rookie in Cronenworth, and he is just
love him. Love him.
He just took everyone by surprise and was like, who is this kid? But he's been a really incredible new addition to the team. And then, of course, you've got, the offense being awoken in Hosmer and Manny Machado as well. So, and Will Myers with his new hair.
You know what? I think a lot of people don't realize, okay, when you look at teams, baseball is such a team sport that we kind of don't give credit to, if there's a specific main player. Mm-hmm. I'm talking specifically about the Chicago Cubs. They were hot. Hobby was playing better. Bryant and Hobby go down. The Cubs start struggling. Mm-hmm. Atlanta breaks with Acuna. I think Tatis is this player for the Padres, with all due respect to Mr. Manny Machado and Eric Hosmer. I really feel like there's players on your team that when they're there and they're in uniform, Tim Anderson for the Chicago White Sox, they change the lineup. They change the way, when you talk strategy, you have Tatis in the lineup. Now they pitch Manny differently. I say the same thing with the Minnesota Twins. I always say the guy that they need to worry about is Nelson Cruz. You take Nelson away from that team, mm-hmm. It's way different lineup, way different attitude, way different approach. So there are players, usually one or two guys on that offense that can definitely change. Just them being their presence being in the lineup, I think it's a big thing. And Tatis is that guy for the Padres.
Absolutely, sure. He's a catalyst. All right, moving on. Let's talk about players being mic'd up. Of course, in this 2020 baseball season, you can basically hear just about everything. So you don't really need guys mic'd up. But when they are, it is oh so fun to listen to them. Freddie Freeman was just mic'd up this past weekend, and we have a video for you to watch so you can hear exactly what he was saying.
It's a really nice first home run. It's a good story, too. Why is your ball waterlogged? Well, because I hit it 450 feet to dead center. Really nice. Congratulations.
Nothing like some positive affirmation from the opposing team, especially from a veteran like Freddie Freeman, right?
I love it. I mean, Freddie Freeman should always be mic'd up, but that's a whole other story.
You guys like that rule? If they implement that?
Well, I do.
So mic up means with our technology, you don't have to pick up all the feed. You can have someone edit it, cut it, use it for later. I really feel like if a player feels really comfortable being mic'd up, mic them up for the game.
Yeah.
And let them go at it, because these are things when you reach base, and it happens in every level of baseball, that interaction between countrymen, friends, joking around, tipping your cap to a player. Okay. Because remember, when guys are playing, like Freddie Freeman has been really good for a long, long time. So for that young player to turn and say, man, Freddie Freeman's at third base, you want to have that moment, even though you're competing. And I think that would be really cool to see that, because a lot of guys, that happens. You're playing the game, you talk, you chat, hey, what are you doing? You're joking around. And I really think that's something that the fans would really, really like to be able to look into those little exchanges, because we always worried about the negative exchanges. When there's fighting or someone called each other, but there's so many more positive exchanges that happen in the field, the joking around, the one guy laughing, the back and forth banter, that I think fans would kind of like, they would enjoy it. Because again, players love playing good baseball. And when you beat your worthy opponent, you love that. Like when you're playing good baseball and you're beating, you're like, I'm playing against the best. The best players, I think, are guys that thrive on that. That are like, oh, we're playing against the best and we're going to beat you. I think that type of friendly competition, I'm a big fan of it. So I hope the fans, I think it would be really cool for the fans to just get access to it, even post-COVID.
Absolutely.
It's also a way for the players to just show their personality, right? For a family to be able to show those players' personality. And there's some players that, sometimes they may seem like they're quiet and that just may be who they are. But when you hear their banter and all of that, it's fun. It's nice. I love it. I think we should see more of this.
Oh, yeah. Anything to get the fans to latch on and cheer for a guy, right? To show the human side. I mean, that's why they have in-game reporters who really don't have the access. So if you don't have that, you might as well have a little mic up action. So who would you guys like to see mic'd up if you could for an entire series?
Amir Garrett.
One game. Would it be A, Fernando Tatis Jr., B, Juan Soto, C, Luis Robert, or D, other?
Amir Garrett.
Amir Garrett, that's a good one.
All of the above.
I love what he has to say.
You know what? I think that Luis Robert is this mystery right now. I really want to get him on La Vida Baseball. He's like this. I didn't get to take a picture with him. I met him at White Sox Fest, but he seems very quiet, but not scared. Jennifer was there. She talked to him, but his fashion was like, for a rookie, he was not, he's got swagger, but he's very quiet. But I think that there's a very interesting guy that we don't know about yet that would be very cool with a microphone. Obviously, we've seen Tatis Jr. and how much swagger he has. Juan Soto, I feel like Juan Soto is the person that off the field is probably the nicest human being ever. But when he puts his uniform on, he transforms into somebody else. I really do.
Sasha Fierce.
No, I really do. I see when you see him with the at bat. I feel like when you see him in the at bats, he just changes his whole demeanor. I feel like he takes it to another level of competition.
Right. Persona.
Yeah, like he takes like this Batman, like I'm better than everybody. And some guys are like that in order to compete. So again, maybe he's mic'd up, but I really feel like that would be really cool to see him. But Amir Garrett, I think that he's super interesting. Ever since that fight, which is unfortunate that I became a fan of his because of that. He's super smart, super ahead, very vocal. And you don't usually see that a lot from relievers. And he's, he speaks his mind and he seems like a very interesting guy.
Yeah, on Twitter. So this was our poll of the day. You can head over there and vote. So right now, leading with 67% of votes is Fernando Tatis Jr. And somebody mentioned Tim Anderson, another option there.
Yeah. And speaking of Tim Anderson, let's talk about the White Sox for a second. They are slugging their way into a postseason appearance and giving the South Side something to cheer about for the first time in nearly a decade. So I saw a tweet, you guys, at the beginning of the season, I would say early on, a couple weeks in, that said, who knew that the White Sox and the Padres would be this good during 2020? If that's not the most unexpected 2020 thing ever. And Ozzie, I think you mentioned it. It would be amazing to see the White Sox and the Padres go head to head in whatever sort of a World Series, bubble or not, that they end up having this season.
You know what? I think that people really enjoy out of the box teams. And when I say out of the box, I mean teams that have different personalities. You look at both teams, they have different personalities between the players, the way they approach the game. And I think that's exciting. The White Sox have so much swag. They have a lot of young talent. It's a really, really fun team to watch. And I think they're going to be fun for a while. And I really enjoy, so there's going to, don't get me on the stats, because I know people are going to Google this right now. I'm predicting that for the first time in a long, long time, I don't know when, the top 5 baseball jerseys, at least the top 3, are going to be all minority players. I really feel that Tatis Jr. is going to go up and take that because the East Coast just found out about who he is, and the Midwest. Tim Anderson is the face of the White Sox, Luis Robert. So you got all these really young players that are going to join Javi Baez and like the Lindors. So for like when you look at who owns, like who's the face of baseball, I always see like jersey sales and whatnot. And it's hard, especially when you're not a Yankees player, all due respect to Terry Jeter, but these guys are doing it with teams that are usually not the favorite team in that town. And it's going to be unique because it's going to be like minorities in baseball. So I want to see how the league approaches it, the players, but it's exciting though. It's a season where we don't have to talk about Mike Trout every 2 seconds because he's having a good year, but everyone else is having a great year in itself. And it's a lot of young players. And I feel that's good for the future of the league.
I also think that Mike Trout would enjoy that because Mike Trout gets a lot of
it's hard
unneeded pressure.
Yeah, it's hard
when there's so much more talent than just Mike Trout. And Mike obviously is amazing. He's a great player. He's great for the league. But when we're talking about growing the game of baseball, Mike Trout is not really the guy when you're talking about personality. And you need that. And Mike's just not, he's not going to be that guy because
you can't force him.
No, exactly.
And I think, you know what? So CC Sabathia retired. A lot of fans. People need a guy that like CC to claim somebody. Jones, gone. So there's a lot of guys that for a long, long time, Nelson, towards the end of his career, there's a lot of Markakis, guys that fans follows for a long time. And now you're looking, who's going to be my next guy? Because as a fan, you kind of just pick a guy. You're like, okay, this is going to be my guy. And you claim him and you start following him. So the last 2-3 years, a lot of big names have retired, guys that had a big presence in Major League Baseball with a huge following. And it's very scary when those type of players retire because they leave a huge void. Like who's going to take over and be the face of the game? Who's going to like make it fun for people? And I really feel like this season, we've seen a lot of big potential names and it's spread out, which is really cool. Because it's just not, one player in one place and everybody has to like, I always joke around this. Like when people talk about Babe Ruth, I'm like, was he the only guy in the league? Like, was there anybody else playing with him? Because that era, they only talk about him. So I feel like this era, there's going to be a lot of great players. And that's good also because you spread out the game and more fans. That means more fans.
Ozzie, I saw a tweet that you put out when in the middle of Jose Abreu's multiple home runs and talking about, so I wonder what the people that were saying that he's out of the game, what are they thinking now? So Ozzie, what are they thinking now? Breaking records.
Social media, I think we've lost patience in sports. In a week from now, we could be talking smack about Tatis. I think people don't look at a player's package and working together because you really, really want to win. Analytics and data is amazing, okay? I love it. But you can manipulate numbers to work in your favor all the time. So they didn't want him to hit third because the claim was he hit too many ground balls. And I was like, well, all power hitters hit ground balls. Nelson Cruz leads his team in home runs, also into ground ball double plays. That's been the correlation for the past 100 years. That's just baseball. And they're usually slower guys, so they don't run as fast at first base. So I really wanted to give him some props because I think that he mentioned it. He mentioned it that because he doesn't get a lot of press. He's been on really bad teams for 5 years, so his numbers have gone unnoticed. And he was coming into a big series, and he put a show on. And even Mike Rizzo said, yeah, he's amazing. And this goes to show you it's hard for a team to get coverage when you're the White Sox and you're the number team in town. It's even harder when you're a Latino player or a player of color to get that, that notice, especially if you're not playing in one of the big cities and you're that number one team. So for him to be able to like have a great game and to be at the national level and show all those people, that he's still there and he's still producing, I was very happy for him because guys struggle, man. Guys, they're going to go 0 for 15. They're going to go 0 for 20. And you can't, just quit on them. Like, this guy's produced 30 home runs, 100 RBIs every single year. And for him to do it, Cubs Sox, it was a big deal because he is handing over what he once was to these younger players. And his presence there is going to be absolutely important. So I'm very happy for Mr. Abreu because he's had amazing years with really, really bad teams.
And there's a number of talented kids right now this season that we've seen come up, get the opportunity because of the situation with COVID. There's other that aren't getting that much attention, particularly because of what you just said, Ozzie, players of color and Latino players. I mean, there's a kid in Seattle, right? Kyle Lewis, who's been getting a lot of, doing a lot of things out in Seattle, not getting a lot of attention. One, he's in Seattle, so that doesn't help. And then he's a player of color as well. So I think that, what we do here is really important because we try to do that. We try to bring that highlight to those players that may not normally get the attention that they so much deserve.
You know who gives the most props to players that are good that nobody knows about? Fantasy baseball. You could be the most random player in the world. And if you are good, that really good team that's winning your league finds him first. And I feel like there's still
how many people play fantasy baseball.
I'm saying no. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So like that's what I mean. Like when you want to know who the hot players are, and it's unfortunate to do that. I play fantasy baseball because it keeps me involved in the game.
Because you're a baseball nerd.
But baseball nerds, exactly. But I feel, I'll give you an example. If I didn't play fantasy baseball, I wouldn't take the time to go and look at who the best players are. I would just assume the best players are this person, this person, this person.
Right, the guys you've heard of.
The guys I've heard of. The guys that I've, the names that are there. The guys that have all-star games.
Right.
And that's unfortunate because these guys are playing. And you look, he hit 573, during the week. And the only reason he was brought up on Twitter was because the White Sox fans were like, Jose Abreu, you better win player of the week. And I was like, hold on. There's a guy in Seattle that's destroying, but he's in the West Coast. So I feel like I want it from the media standpoint. I really feel that there should be more people out there looking for that talent and saying, hey, this guy's playing well, and share it. Tag everyone and share it. Let us know about it. And I feel like that's where the gap between the top writers in the sport are missing it, because they're not going out and looking for the next big story, and that's unfortunate because, if there wasn't places like La Vida Baseball, there's a big gap between big places, La Vida Baseball, and fans. And, you can cover only so much. And I feel like it's a disservice for, and even some of the teams, like some teams do a great job on social media, others don't. So it's really pushing, because that's what makes the game fun. You're not going to watch Seattle losing that many games unless there's a fun player. That, I tweeted the other day, I haven't watched the NBA in like 6-7 years, but Luka, whoever this guy is, who I found out he's really good actually, is trending. And I looked up his numbers, like, man, like, this is a guy playing by himself. But because of him, I'm like, I really want to watch this guy's next game because he sounds really cool. So I'm looking at it. If I wasn't a baseball fan, what would get me to watch a game? And it's players. It's guys that are exciting that you're like, this guy's really cool. I want to go watch him. That's just sports, and you want to fight it as much as you want. And I really feel like players do drive the game.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the NBA, yesterday, teams and players around the league paid tribute to the late Kobe Bryant on what would have been his 42nd birthday. So we saw some great photos, and we have some here to share with you, of teams and players, specifically the Dodgers and Bryce Harper, wearing jerseys and showing their support for one of the best players, one of the most prolific athletes in any game, in any league during our lifetime.
Yeah, that Mamba mentality. I really like what they did, the players as well as the Dodgers. I know that they have like a really nice tribute video. I think that, and I said this kind of jokingly the other day, talking about that Mamba mentality. If you want to honor Kobe Bryant, you better allow for that Mamba mentality to proliferate in baseball. Because it's the one way that you are going to allow the game to grow. You're going to allow guys and players to grow, and for us to have a lot of fun watching it.
I understood why the Dodgers did it, because Kobe was a fan of that team. He was always around that team. Everybody knew it. But I did not know I really feel not cheated because I wasn't, because I saw him playing his whole life. I didn't realize how many people and professional athletes Kobe Bryant had impacted in professional sports, specifically in baseball, until his passing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's probably the biggest name that has passed sports-wise in my era. So that's maybe why I didn't recognize that. But yesterday was everybody was writing about Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Players, coaches, teams, Latino, guys from the Midwest, guys from the West Coast, East Coast guys. It was really kind of scary and creepy. Like, I had no idea that Kobe was this important when he was alive as to what he meant to the individual athlete. And that's something that's amazing, because the impact that somebody had in a sport that wasn't even his sport. If guys do it in the NBA, I get it. You know, you play basketball, I'm sure, but like, this is baseball, like totally different. And again, I think it comes from the mentality and even the business world, man. Like, people were like, all these like top CEOs and executives and people in Hollywood just writing about it, like the influence that Kobe had on them. This picture right here. I've never seen anything like this before. Wearing another guy's jersey from another sport to the national anthem. That's an amazing thing. And I think that Kobe now is going to take it to the next level of when we make guys martyrs. I really think that he's going to be a guy that is going to live on forever.
He's going to be canonized. He's going to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Though, like, I think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be talking about forever because the influence that he had on just the generation. It's just really, really.
I think especially Ozzie, I think it's also because, you know, we always say baseball is, what is it, like 90% mental and the rest is physical.
Yeah.
And that's why it is. I think it's because of that Mamba mentality, as we've quoted. It proliferates. I mean, it's so important for athletes to be able to get their mind right. So when you get your mind right, you're able to play better. And I think that's part of it. I think I think it's a really big part of why Kobe has been so impactful, not only in sports, but like you said, with CEOs and the list goes on and on. It's because of that mentality helps you in kind of in any way, in anywhere in life.
A professional athlete told me that it was also because Kobe's life wasn't perfect. And in a world when we want everybody to be perfect, we knew Kobe's darkest secrets. And we saw him overcome them and become the guy that he was becoming when he played, but then transitioned to being, you know, a girl dad. That's like another level of, I didn't think that being a girl dad was that special until I saw Kobe's bond with his daughter. Yeah. You know, and then I was given a daughter, but I related in my brain Kobe Bryant with his daughter because I remember exactly when he was talking about how they used to watch video and sports together. So even I think that's more impactful than anything he did on the court basketball wise, because, you know, I'm a more of a Michael Jordan era guy, but as a dad. So I really feel that there was just so many levels of impact for Kobe that the player that I was talking to was like, yeah, man, like he is the, you know, of what a professional athlete, like when you struggle, what you should become, that you're not perfect, and how you bounce back. And it was just like, it was really, really cool to see. It was sad to see at the same time because it's a big void, but I really hope that they keep his memory alive and keep playing the game and being good dads. And that's the way that you have to keep this, keep his memory, flourishing.
And isn't it unbelievable that this was only, his passing was only at the beginning of this year. It seems like it was.
Trust me, it was one of those things that you would think that this is like the only thing that you would talk about, but it was like the beginning of this whole thing, his tragic passing. And it's like, so much has happened. Like, I feel like this was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things that when you don't know why something happened, but I really think that a lot of professional athletes reflected on their lives, on their decisions, how the way they approach life, the game. And I feel like that's just something that you have to carry with you. And it's a big loss, but so much gain from that loss that I think a lot of people are going to keep that memory. And I've never seen anything like it in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it was certainly a pivotal moment at the beginning of the year. I think it was the last Sunday in January when that happened, when he passed away. And after that, it just kicked off this series of very unfortunate events of the rest of 2020. But that was the first big hit. I think we, as the public and the sports world, you know, took in a very long time. So happy birthday to Kobe Bryant. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Guys, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. We'll be back on Wednesday with a brand new episode of La Vida Baseball Live. We're going to be talking about the halfway point in the season. Where have we come from and where are we going? We're going to take stock in all of the teams and what they've been able to accomplish and what we're most looking forward to as the trade deadline approaches and the postseason is set to begin next month. We'll see you then.